This Model Y long range that we just purchased in December of 2023 is the first brand new car that I've ever purchased. One of the benefits or drawbacks of that, depending on your perspective, is that when you buy a used vehicle, it's never in perfect condition, and it's easy to just keep on driving it and not worry about its condition too much. I try to maintain my equipment, and I don't purposely damage it, of course, but I don't baby my vehicles either. The way I see it, a vehicle is a tool for practical purposes to transport my family and I around, make awesome memories, going on road trips together, etc. In 2019, we purchased a used 2015 Model S with 63,000 miles on it, and we've now added 73,000 miles on the odometer, and it certainly has some battle scars, unfortunately. Some of it is just regular road debris, and some scratches are from our children, which, as much as I try to teach them to be careful around the car, I ultimately can't be here protecting the car at all times from them or their friends that ride their bikes in and out of the garage, or any other countless scenarios where the vehicle is being used out in the real world. Let's just say our S certainly has some character. So here I am with this brand new Model Y thinking about the character our Model S has acquired over the last nearly 5 years of ownership, and wishing I could preserve this new car appearance as long as possible on the Y. But I can't really bring myself to spend 10% of the vehicle's worth on paint protection film for aesthetics either. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know I do as much as I possibly can myself to save money and to learn new skills. I've always done as much automobile work as possible on all my vehicles that I've ever owned. In 2017 and 2019, I installed a 10 kilowatt solar array on the roof of our house. In 2020, I installed a trailer hitch and trailer light wiring on my Model S myself. Then in 2021, I retrofitted our travel trailer with solar and batteries and inverters, plus changed out all the necessary appliances to be fully electric. I think you get my point. I recognize that my personal time has significant value and it's not infinite, so some might argue it's better to spend your time making money with what you specialize in at your job than pay someone else to do the work that they specialize in to apply the PPF. Sure, I get that, but like I said, I like to have the experience of doing many things at least once, then depending on how well that goes, perhaps never do it again. Plus, sometimes a task isn't overly difficult and the labor markup is significantly higher than I think it should be, at least in my opinion, such as what solar installers charge and perhaps PPF. Only time will tell. I researched YouTube and elsewhere and what it would take to install PPF myself, and it looks like something I can probably do myself. Then I found a company named Dry Protected that has their own brand of film called Defense Plus that they have developed in conjunction with paint protection film manufacturer. It has a 10-year warranty against yellowing, it's 8 mil thick, it has a self-healing layer plus a hydrophobic top coat. They sell DIY kits that are pre-cut pieces of their Defense Plus PPF with an extra half-inch edge for wrapping around the edge of the Tesla body panel. Plus, it comes with an install kit with a clay bar, spray bottles, squeegee, and specialized soaps for prepping the car prior to applying the PPF. In this video, I've partnered with Dry Protected to document my experience installing PPF on my Model Y, to share with you all how it goes. I've never installed PPF or anything before, so this is a genuine noob experience that I think should reflect the difficulty level you can expect if you decide to DIY PPF too. Dry Protected sent me their full front-end plus kit, and they gave me access to their training academy, which has lots of videos to watch and learn from the experts. I've watched their videos, so let's get started with the actual project to see how hard this really is to do. First off, let's go through what came in the box. They've got the top covered with all this package foam, and this is everything that came in the box. So I'm going to go over this just briefly. So first off, they have the squeegee, which is obviously very important. They included a clay bar, and that of course will be helpful for removing all of the contaminants out of the paint before you put down your paint protection film. And then it came with these 4 bottles. You have the all-purpose cleaner, foam soap, and iron remover, and then the ceramic spray. And then there are the 4 nozzles that go along with those bottles here. And then over here are the spray bottles for the tack solution and the slip solution, which you have to mix up yourself and then put in these bottles. And then over here it has information about the different pieces of PPF that we've got. So we have the hood right there. And then this is a 5-part piece actually. So you have the one big piece that stretches across the front bumper, and then you have the smaller pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4 over here. That makes it much easier to apply rather than trying to hit all of these compound curves and get the stretching just right. You can do them in separate pieces. And then we have the mirror, of which this would be 2 of them. And then the fender, which there would be 2 of those, of course, 1 on either side. And this, oh, and then the microfiber towels right here. This is the PPF right here, and there are 2 practice pieces of PPF, so that's great to be able to practice with non-essential pieces of PPF first. And then we have over here the PPF. So this is headlights, fog lights, and then over here we have the door edge guards. And then right here is the bumper, tow hook cover, lower bumper, and then here we have the hood, fender, mirrors, and A-pillars. And that, of course, is the longest roll because it has the biggest pieces in it. So what I purchased for this as well is right here we have this foam soap, and I believe it's best used with a foam cannon. So I went and picked this up from Harbor Freight. It's something I figured I'd probably be needing anyway, doing car washes in the future, something I've been thinking about for a while. But now that I've shown you all of the parts that came in the kit, I now need to, of course, get my Model Y washed, and I've already pulled it out here into the driveway. So I'm going to work on getting it washed now. First thing to do is rinse the car off, and I'm going to be using this power washer today. There's nothing special about this per se. It's a Husqvarna Max 2000 PSI electric power washer, and you can see here I've just got a basic nozzle on it. So I'm going to get this all rinsed off, and then I'll move on to the detergents. And every step along the way, I am following the YouTube videos from Drive Protected to learn how to wash the car and what chemicals to use when, and also I'll be using the videos later, watching them when it's time to install the PPF. Now I have the all-purpose cleaner with the spray nozzle put on it, and I'm just going to be spraying this all over the front of the vehicle where I'm going to be applying the PPF. I've hooked up the foam cannon to my power washer, and I put in half an ounce for this much water, which I think was about 32 ounces. And so now I'm going to spray this on the car. I must say that foam cannon is really effective. I've never washed a car with the foam cannon before, and I'm glad I got it. That's really nice. Way better than what the power washer does with its foam setting. And now that the car is all nice and foamed up, I'm going to use the microfiber towels that they supplied and just gently rub the car to get it nice and clean. Then I'll rinse it off again when I'm done with this part. And now I'm going to move on to the next step, which is the iron remover. So in the instructions, it just says to spray it all over the car, leave it for a few minutes, and then rinse it back off. And if there is any iron on the vehicle, that you'll see red spots where it has oxidized with the iron. Being a brand new vehicle, it might not have much on it, but we have driven it about 1,200 miles now, and then who knows how it was transported prior to that. Frankly, I don't see any red dots, so I guess we'll just say that my car, being brand new, didn't have any iron on it, but it's good to make sure. As I was rinsing the car off, I noticed that the ground was getting kind of blood colored, frankly. It's kind of funny, but yeah, I guess there was iron on the car, and it's not obvious on the paint, but when it rinses down onto the ground in higher concentrations, apparently it is. Or maybe I just had iron on the ground, and that solution has rinsed down onto the ground and is showing up as red on the ground. But you can see it's all around the car over this way. You can definitely see that red appearance on the concrete all the way around. But on the vehicle itself, I still don't see any. So I don't know what to make of that. If you know, post in the comments below. We've done all the steps of cleaning it now. I'm going to rinse it off one more time, and then I'll go over it with the microfiber towels, but dry ones, to dry it all off. As a side note, I actually ended up using a whole lot more of these yellow microfiber towels than the 2 that were supplied. I had a package already in the garage from Costco. I recommend you pick up one of those because we used a lot of them throughout the whole project for various purposes. And here is the final result. I have finished completely drying it off, and it looks really nice. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. You know, even though it is brand new and we've put 1,200 miles on it, but there are already really minor dings or light abrasions here and there. And it's just interesting how quickly this paint picks up imperfections, which helps to reinforce my desire to do PPF. One example, this is an area that I've heard is a problem right in front of the rear tire. And you can see there's some scratches from rocks right there already. So, you know, getting PPF on here is definitely going to help that. And so right now we're only doing PPF on the front. We'll see what we do about the rest of the car later. The next step is to get the tack solution and the slip solution ready. So the tack solution is just hot water, but it should be distilled water or reverse osmosis, something very pure water. The slip solution should be also pure water, but it doesn't need to be warm. And then you need to put in a little bit of Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo in. And in the video, in the instructions, he said 2 pumps. I don't have a pump on mine. I'm just going to put in what I think is about 2 pumps worth, and it should be fine. And just fill up this bottle most of the way to the top. And it should be about 32 ounces or so. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll start spraying that on the car. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is spraying down some of the slip solution onto the hood of the Model Y. I'm going to start with the hood, and then I'll be rubbing the clay bar over it. And there are instructions, and there's a video on showing how to do this. They sent an entire clay bar, and I'm sure that this is far more than I'm going to need for this project. So I'm just going to pull a part of this off and then use that. And the purpose of clay barring a vehicle is to get rid of all of the contaminants that are embedded in the paint. I have finished clay barring the whole front of the vehicle where I'm going to be putting the PPF. The next thing I'm going to be doing is going around the edges of the hood and using the general all-purpose cleaner that Dry Protect had supplied and rubbing it along this edge to get any dirt along the edge out so that the film will be able to wrap around this edge and be able to adhere correctly to the bottom. And then I'll be going around with the second cloth and I'll be putting isopropyl alcohol along the edge to get this nice and clean. And then I'm going to be doing it around the same thing around the edges of everywhere else where the film will wrap around a body panel, the edge of a body panel. I'll be cleaning the edges of everything. I have finished prepping the surface of the vehicle except for the alcohol, and then at that point I'll be wiping off the alcohol, spraying on the slip solution, and actually begin the application of the PPF. But the next thing I need to do is actually unroll the PPF roll, and I just wanted to point out what to expect. You can see they've got stickers on here identifying these various pieces. It might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but I think you can. So as an example, this right here is a mirror piece. I can tell just by looking at the shape of it, and you can see right here this says left mirror, and so this says left A-pillar, and that's, I believe, referencing this strip all the way along here and goes off into the roll. So I'm going to just carefully, make sure not to nick any of the actual film. There isn't any film between. You just need to take scissors somewhere in here and separate out these pieces from each other. I've finished cutting all of the PPF parts separate from each other, and this big one that's laid out right here is the hood. So I'm now going to get started on applying that. So I'm going to spray this off with alcohol initially, wipe it off, put on the slip solution, and then apply the PPF. On the time lapse I just showed that we just laid out the we put on the slip solution and then laid out the hood piece. And you can see right here, I can move this and the whole sheet is moving around. So I'm going to spray in some tack solution right here. So I'm just moving this whole, right now I'm moving the whole hood around while I get this PPF centered on the Tesla logo. So that's looking good. Now at this point, I'm not committed. It's not like a sticker with paper backing that will just rip off. If I needed to, I could peel this back up right now because it's still fresh enough. At least that's what I have seen in the videos. In fact, right now I can still move this around a little bit, so I'm going to just use a little bit more tack solution. I'm going to continue to show you the time lapse of getting this installed. And I did the hood first, even though it's the biggest piece. It's the simplest piece. It's just one big flat, slightly curved object. And with Jessica's help, thanks for helping me, Jess, getting this laid out. I then applied PPF to both fenders, and that was more tricky than the hood, but with patience, I got it on nicely. Then I did the side mirrors, and those were more tricky still. They require a lot of stretching of the PPF due to their rounded shape on the leading side. The training videos said to pour hot water over them right before stretching, and that did the trick. I then applied the A-pillars, and those were super easy. If you want something easy to practice with, then do the A-pillars first. We're going to tackle the bumper now. We have all hands on deck. Now we're going to unwrap the bumper and get it laid out. This is a big piece, and this is the hardest part of the whole project.
So we need all hands on deck.
Right. This isn't time sensitive until we get the PPF on the bumper, and then it is more time sensitive. It's still not crazy time sensitive. Grab this right here and walk towards Lucy.
Can you spray it now?
Yeah. Are you holding the sticker? Okay, we're going to put it right here. So make sure you don't just let go, because it might slide off. The bumper PPF requires a fair amount of stretching for it to take the rounded shape of the bumper, and there are a lot of places that need to be properly aligned, so it was nice to have extra hands holding it in place. I found the PPF to be fairly forgiving as long as you make sure it still has enough slip solution so that the material can move around. The difficulty with the bumper is the material is getting pulled tight to stretch to the other side, and after only a couple of minutes it does begin to stick. So you do have to pull the PPF back in the middle area to spray new slip solution behind it. So working quickly is helpful to avoid problems. We've finished the bumper and succeeded. This was the biggest, hardest part that I was most worried about. And you can see it turned out quite nice. There's a couple of really minor imperfections, like as an example, right here, going right to the edge of the light right there, just great. But if we come to the opposite side, you can see that this one is off by a little bit. And then also the film is lower here by about 1 millimeter or 2 than I would like compared to up here. But really those are pretty minor issues. And then if you look right here, there's a little bit of a finger. And I have found some of them keep coming back, but if I just kind of hold my finger there and the warmth of my finger warms it up, and it usually stays stuck pretty good after that. And then if I wait even just a few hours and come back, everything's dried off, and then usually it sticks even better than if I'm still having problems with keeping it down. But otherwise, I'm very happy with how this turned out. And this was, of course, the big main piece. And I still need to do this part right here. And then there's going to be some fog light piece as well. And then there's a lower bumper portion that goes along there as well. So I've still got a bunch of little pieces left to do, but I've done all of the big pieces. All right, it is time to do the tow hook cover. And Lydia wanted to try her hand at this. Okay, go ahead. So she's spraying on the slip solution. And then she's going to peel off the sticker and make sure not to drop it on the floor, because then it would be all dusty and gritty. So she's spraying the adhesive side of it. Then she's putting it on. And you are going to center it now. You gotta get close and make sure you can see all the edges of it. Does that look good to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so get the squeegee. And then you gotta probably put a finger on the bottom or the top and then squeegee in the opposite direction. Try to hold it in place. All right. Good job, Lydia. What do you think? Was that easy? Mm-hmm. That was a really easy piece too, huh?
Not like the bumper.
Yeah, the bumper was scary, huh? Okay, thanks for your help. What are you doing, Lucy?
I'm going to do my own piece.
She's going to do a fog light. Okay, go ahead. So now it's moving around real good. You can get it nicely centered. So with the squeegee, just smooth it out. So do it gently at first and then do a little bit harder, progressively pushing harder once it looks like it's staying in place and you can get all the water and air out.
It's fun.
It's fun?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thanks for your help. Are you going to help me next? All right. Go ahead and do it. She's spraying on the slip solution. You can spray some more. Okay, so she's peeling off the sticker. Now spray it with the slip solution. Put it right there on the corner of the car. All right. Okay, I'll take it from here. What did you think, Clara?
I liked it.
All right, thanks for your help. The remaining pieces I installed were the 2 small pieces on each side of the bumper, then the lower bumper. And some of those pieces were kind of tricky to install. The front bumper in general has a lot of sculpting to it for aerodynamics purposes, which makes for a lot of stretching the PPF to match those curves. The 4 smaller pieces that add on to the main bumper are easier to install separately like this rather than being part of the big piece, but they still have their own challenges of aligning them with each other, and it's more difficult to get PPF to stick to the concave surfaces. The absolute easiest pieces to install are the fog lights and tow hook cover. The headlights aren't too bad, but they are curved, so it requires a little bit of stretching. In hindsight, if I were to rank the pieces by difficulty, starting with the easiest, I'd start with the tow hook cover, fog lights, lower bumper, A-pillars, headlights, hood, fenders, side mirrors, 4 small additional pieces on the sides of the bumper, then the main bumper piece is the most difficult. If I were to do this project again, I'd do them in that order just to build my skills along with the difficulty of the piece. And I am now done. I have installed literally all the pieces that I have to install. Before I show you a couple of findings, I just wanted to point out kind of some of the leftover parts that I have. So these are 2 pieces for the side mirrors, and they sent 2 of each of them. So I guess this is difficult enough to do that they sent to you, so you can have a backup for when you mess up. But luckily I didn't mess up on either of them, so I actually have 2 leftover pieces. I actually never used either of the test pieces because I wanted to be able to use these in the future for other reasons I might want to use them, such as if I ever take these roof rails off, there's paint protection film at the base, and if that ever needs to get replaced for whatever reason, it's nice to have some more PPF around. So I wanted to keep those for that. And then lastly, it has these door edge strips, and these I believe are just for going along the edge of the door right here and there, and then the other side. And I'm looking into maybe getting some PPF for the sides as well, and those would be redundant, so I'm not putting those on at this time. But if I end up not putting PPF along the side of the car, then I will put these on. Some of the findings that I had was when we installed this bumper, we started on this side, we got the tow hook, and then we stretched it this way, and that was difficult because there's a lot of different places where we're trying to get things to line up, like right here as an example. And you'll notice right here, I already pointed this out briefly, but that there is this spot where you can kind of tell it was supposed to be over this way about 1/2 inch. Now, it doesn't look too bad, but what that means is that this whole seam right here, there's a seam along there between the main bumper and this extra piece, the whole seam moved that way 1/2 inch. So when I installed this piece right here, I had to butt it up against the existing PPF right there. This is the seam right there. And then when I came over here to this intersection, it was, or actually it's right here, there's a corner that goes right here. And that was not lining up at all. Like, it was off by a good 1/2 inch for sure. So I actually ended up spraying this with as hot as water as I could get in the water bottle without melting it, and then stretched it carefully, and it was a lot of work, but I did get it to pretty much line up right here, and then over here as well. So this was actually one of the trickier pieces of the whole install, secondarily after the bumper itself, which is tricky because it's just so big. But it turned out quite nice. I'm very pleased. And the girls kept saying, I can't even tell where you've already done it. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the point of it. It's just clear, and just clear plastic to keep it, the paint safe, but not alter the look of the vehicle. And so I'm very pleased. I've got on the headlights here, the fog lights there, this piece here, then there's another piece right here, and then the main bumper and the hood. Now, regarding the hood, I went around the edge and I cut off the extra piece along this edge. So this was tricky because I was using a razor blade and I didn't want to scratch the paint. And so it was pretty painstaking to go along here and just carefully be cutting off this edge. And then I used the heat gun to go and push it down and get it nicely sealed. You'll see around the corners right there, there are a little bit of fingers left over, and I feel like that's kind of unavoidable, and that happened on both sides on those corners right there. But otherwise, it looks flawless, and I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. Over here on this side where I did this piece, since the bumper wasn't off over here like it was on the other side, you'll see here at this intersection that it comes together quite perfectly. And then down here also, it comes around this corner just right. But one thing I did notice is that there's a gap. You'll see right here, this is the edge of it on the right side, and then there's a gap right there. So it's about a 1/4 inch gap between the lower bumper piece and this piece. So I guess when I installed the lower bumper, I probably should have pushed it and had it even go up this curve slightly to get it farther to the right. I'm not too concerned about it, but I might take a strip of PPF from the excess that I have and wrap it around that piece. And then right here is that other corner, so it comes right here and then down, and this one lined up really nicely. Another tricky spot is right here. So there's a piece that's coming around this way, and then there's another piece right here. So the two come together right there. And I was able to get them lined up pretty nicely. And in a lot of places, including right here, I used the heat gun, and I would just tap it briefly with the pretty hot heat, and then move the heat gun away, and then it would make this stickier and tackier and more pliable, and it would stay. In this area right here where it's very curved, I use the heat gun here to soften the PPF and then get to stick down into that valley. And so a heat gun is actually quite helpful, and it's like up here there's fingers that were building up along the bottom of the headlight, and even now there's a tiny bit I can see now. So when this is fully dry, I'll come back and then push those in better, and they'll stick better when it's fully dry. But the heat gun really helps to accelerate that, and also when it's dry and then you use a heat gun as well, it makes it extra tacky. In summary, now that I'm done, I'm really pleased with the result, and the actual application of the PPF was not terribly difficult as long as you have some patience and aren't rushed, and as long as you watch the videos to make sure you know what you're doing from the experts. A good half of the work is cleaning and detailing the vehicle's finish prior to applying the PPF. Since Dry Protected includes the necessary cleaning formulations to do that detailing, this kit is a great value to be able to install PPF yourself. I ended up with varying amounts of leftover detergents. The ceramic spray I haven't used at all yet because I have a different ceramic product I'm going to apply next, which I'll cover in a future video. The iron remover formula got used up the most, and the foaming soap literally only had half an ounce used out of the entire bottle, and even that half an ounce wasn't entirely used. That is with me using a foam cannon, which worked great, but you have to purchase that separately if you want it. It's not required, but it's nice to have, and I'll use it for years to come. I had to purchase some of Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo, which I got in the travel section for about $1.50. As a tip to Dry Protected, a small travel bottle size might be easy enough to include in the kit in the future. I also purchased a bottle of isopropyl alcohol for this project, and that's also super cheap and convenient to acquire. I used one of the provided spray bottle caps, and I screwed that directly onto the bottle of the alcohol, and that worked perfectly. I also used a fine needle to poke a couple of bubbles that I missed while squeegeeing out the PPF, and that was easy to do. Doing this project in a garage is very helpful. Depending on the time of year, the temperature and the wind is obviously highly variable, which also depends on where you live, and it's best not to be rushed. If you have too short of a window of weather or daylight available, then that's just a recipe for problems that might undo hours of work by getting dust all over the vehicle or worse. This is the state of the weather during this project outside, and you can see it's also very cold because it's still winter. So I would potentially argue that having a garage for this project, especially this time of year in my climate, is required. I did this project over 3 days, mostly due to the time that I had available each day, and having the garage closed off enabled me to easily pause the project and pick it back up where I had time. I also could do it at night. For that reason, I highly recommend only attempting this when inside a closed garage. Even though I did it over 3 days, I could have done it all in one day if I had dedicated that entire day to the project and started first thing in the morning. As with most DIY projects, especially where you've never done something before, it'll take multiple times longer than someone with experience. Also keep in mind recording video while doing a project adds a significant amount of time to do that project, so that slowed me down as well. Having a helper was helpful during the most difficult parts of removing the PPF from the backing and not letting it touch the floor. I got help for that with the bumper, which was the most difficult part due to its size and complexity. I likely would have been able to do it alone, but having a helper was nice. I've included a link in the video description below to Dry Protected's website, where you can pick up your own PPF kit for 20% off. Not only do they have kits for various coverage amounts of the vehicle and the necessary application tools, you can also purchase pre-cut panels a la carte, depending on what you specifically want to apply PPF to, or perhaps replace a panel if yours is damaged. It's been a fun project, and I'm pleased with the result, especially never having done anything like this before, and the cost savings compared to hiring out the entire project is significant. If you have any questions or comment, then feel free to post those in the comment section below, and with that, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.